My name, for those of you who don't know, is Ruby Dynamite. I'm 33 years old, I live in the PDX, and I am a former sex worker. A series of unfortunate circumstances led to me opting to move to the Pacific Northwest to get a fresh start. As it happens, just prior to my move, I was unemployed, and although I had considerable skills with computers even back then, it was hard to find good work without a college education. As much as that sucked, I accepted it and went about trying to find other gainful employment for myself. As it turns out, in this country, unless you want to spit out an endless string of babies or wear a paper hat for a junk food chain, your resources and options as a young woman without a college degree are severely limited. I had too much experience as a keyboard monkey and too bad a back from gaining that experience to ever be able to cut it as a fast food worker, and I didn't have enough of the right experience to get where I wanted to go within the tech world. And as far as the babies are concerned, well, the babies weren't even an option for me. I started looking for work I could do from home where I could make a good living. Not necessarily raking in the big bucks, but enough so that I could have a roof over my head and food to eat, and maybe at some hazy point in the distant future, maybe I'd actually be able to afford to take those classes that I needed in order to finally get my foot in the door for the field I was genuinely interested in. I was still new to the work at home biz back then, but one of the jobs that kept popping up onto my HUD was for phone sex operators, or phone actresses, which is the less seedy title they are usually posting for in ads and at various websites. Just like a lot of people, I thought, hey, I've had phone sex with people before, and it's probably just a lot of ooh baby baby stuff, right? That's a piece of cake. I can do that. Sign me up. As it turned out, I couldn't have been more wrong. In the few months I was working within the industry as a phone sex operator, I learned a few things about myself. No matter how open-minded I thought I was, nothing prepared me for the weirdos I would encounter as a PSO. These are not the charming weirdos or peculiar characters you can chuckle about after having hung up the phone. These are people with very specific fetishes that range from adult men who like to wear diapers and jammies with feet in them, and people with smoking fetishes who like to have their nipples abused with hunks of broken glass. Ooh, baby, baby wasn't going to cut it with this crowd. I figured, wrongly as it turned out, that if I had enjoyed having phone sex, that this job would be a cinch for me. But it's something altogether different when you're being paid for it. And when I say that, I don't mean to say that I felt like I was a whore or that I felt like I was being exploited. See, the thing about me is that I enjoy talking dirty. It's one of my favorite things. I love talking about sex and writing about it and thinking about it and talking about it with people who write about it and think about it. It's one of my most favorite personal meditations. And just like anything else anybody really loves to do, when you start doing it for money, it changes the experience significantly. Another thing I came to understand about myself was just what an awful ad-libber I was. See, the way that the company worked, you'd get a message from the boss alerting you to an incoming call, and they'd, you know, tell you what the guy wanted, how much time he paid for, etc., though you were always encouraged to keep them on the phone for as long as possible, of course. They'd give you a minute or two of notice, and then you were on. For someone like me, that was like my worst naked in front of an entire auditorium/classroom of unruly high schoolers' dreams combined. The spotlight is on you, and it reveals every blemish, every mole, every imperfection, and it does so with ruthless efficiency. To make a long story short, too late, I sucked at being a phone actress because I couldn't act. So accepting my limitations and the hard truth I would never win any awards for Best Improvised Phone Sex Blowjob with Props, I moved back to the more familiar pastures of customer service that didn't involve feety pajamas and giantess fantasies. It's still a sore spot for me because I know that if I could have gotten past my complete lack of acting skills, I probably would have been raking in money hand over fist. But I had to accept the fact that I just didn't have the tools for the job. I walked out of the gig, but thankfully not the same way I went in. I learned a lot about what it's like to be in the industry, what the industry is, and most especially what it's not, and the various limits I have as a person. I am not a victim. I was not trafficked or coerced or subjugated into doing what I did. I made the choice of my own volition to apply for that job, and while it didn't work out to my benefit, I will never regret having worked in the industry. I am not the product of a middle-class family. I am not college educated. I am self-taught in most everything I've learned beyond graduating high school. I am a lesbian and a sex-positive feminist. I am not a fun feminist who thinks that heels and makeup are hot. At least not on me. In point of fact, my appearance isn't all that far off from yours, Heather. Though I have to say my hair is a bit more rad and I wear glasses. I also wear clothes that are comfortable from head to toe, and you won't find heels anywhere on my feet. Because I am ridiculously tall, and getting me to wear heels will be like putting a giraffe in roller skates. Dangerous for the giraffe and everyone else around it. I don't have an artist's hand, never have had, so despite my sister-in-law informing me that makeup is just a fact of life and I just had to get used to it and learn how to slap the shit on my face, makeup is also out of the question. I have what I like to think of as a very strong personality. Some people might consider it dominant or toppish, but I tend to consider myself a person who just knows her own mind, knows herself, and knows what she wants. For a long time, my life was about other people making choices for me. And ever since I got out of that life and into my new one, there's not a soul on this planet who can make me do something that I don't damn well intend to do myself. I also have a submissive streak to me that is not quite on par to my dominant one. I'm telling you all these things about myself, Heather, so you can understand. As many of my pro-sex compadres have been saying, not all sex workers, or even former sex workers such as myself, are cut from the same cloth. We are not one formless, faceless entity that exists to be abused and exploited and talked over like we're the bad kid at the dinner table. What are we going to do about the sex workers, dear? They're such a bother.
I don't know, dear. What do you think?
These things I've listed about myself are just a few of the things I know I am, and that I know I am not. Another thing I know about myself is that I exist, that I am here. I am present, and you can talk to me. The same way you can talk to my friends Divinity and Amy and Feminist Whore and Laurel and even my friends Bob and Curious Blue. We're all present and accounted for and here to be talked to if you'd only step forward and say hello. One thing myself and a lot of my fellow sex workers take issue to is being spoken about but not spoken to. There are lots of us here. We're resources just sitting here waiting to be tapped, but few people rarely ever do so. Because it's much easier to see us referring to ourselves as feminists and assume that we're all man-hating ogres brandishing titanium nail-studded mace-spraying dildos who see patriarchy strings dangling from everything and perceive everything everyone does to anyone ever as rape of some form or another. It's also easier to write us off as the fun feminists who like heels and perfume and lipstick and just tee-hee away the reality of exploitation. It's always easier to build a straw man and burn that rather than address the obvious, justified concerns we have as a community. As someone involved in what is essentially a genderqueer relationship, I would have thought that someone like yourself would have been the last person to perpetrate such asshattery against us, but live and learn, I guess. We need visibility, and we need people to listen to us. Not tell people what they think we're in favor of one moment, and then condemn us for the crime of those beliefs the next. We don't need someone rolling their eyes with obvious contempt at what they think we believe, and what they think we stand for, and what they think we're fighting for, rather than coming to us and asking us what we believe, and what we stand for, and what we are fighting for. We don't need someone to be given a massive sandbox as you have been, only for them to squander it by not giving this subject matter and all of the involved parties the respect and deference they deserve by doing proper research. Quite frankly, I'm amazed that ZJ posted this video at all, considering the fact that ZJ's videos are always so well balanced in terms of giving all the facets of a subject equal representation, whether ZJ agrees with those facets or not. There are a lot of things I am, and a lot of things I am not. I am here. You can talk to me, but don't talk over me as though I am not here. The very act of you refusing to take this subject matter seriously enough to try to seek some of us out, if not here, then elsewhere on the internet, there are plenty of us who have YouTube channels or blogs or even both, is tantamount to oppression because you mistake us for idealistic youngsters who just don't know any better, gosh darn it. You are robbing us of the very visibility and autonomy we need so very desperately in order to further this conversation and our hopes for this movement. You are doing the very thing you accuse the patriarchy and the adult industry of doing to us. You are taking away our choice and our voices. We are not all youngins who don't know any better. We are not adolescents. The movement isn't in its infancy, and we don't need to grow up. We also don't need to be spoken down to by someone who has no idea who we are or what we stand for. So go and make ZJ proud. Go do some research and do this video again when you finally know what sex-positive feminism is really about. Thanks for watching.